Welcome to another In Wheel Time podcast, a 30-minute mini version of the In Wheel Time car show that airs live every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central. Max anywhere.
From the 63rd Annual Autorama at the George R. Brown Convention Center in downtown Houston, Texas, it's the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Coming up, another guest from the massive participants at this year's show. I got to drive the new Jeep Compass. I'll give you my thoughts on it. Conrad has the cruise-in calendar and This Week in Auto History. And later we'll bring you the stories making automotive news headlines. Just ahead on the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Howdy, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We always need more Jeff Zekin. He's right there. And right behind him, next to him, is David Ainsley.
Right.
Has anybody ever asked you about that?
They ask me all the time.
Do they really?
Yeah, I have to refer them to David.
Yeah. Here's his phone number. You ask him. Anybody ever talk to you about that, David? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I can't believe that it's already the start of hour number 3.
We should be drinking.
We should be, but we have to hold off on that. They do sell alcoholic beverages here. By the way, the doors are now open.
The doors are open.
Yeah, and the masses are filing in.
They're massing.
Flowing in. And flowing right here into the guest seat at our remote facility.
Studio.
Well, I wouldn't call it a studio. I'd call it a desk.
Prison cell.
Our remote desk here at the George R.
Got
Brown.
enough wires around us to be
Cell
a studio.
block.
Well, hopefully everybody can't see all of that because it's really not something to brag about. But joining us here is Eric Lipper. Eric, good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Eric and I had a nice conversation, a move-in day, which was Tuesday. Here it is Saturday already.
Well, it goes quick, doesn't it?
Time flies when you're having a good time. Before you know it, we'll be pulling down all this stuff and hauling it out of here on Sunday night.
Absolutely. That's the annual tradition.
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of weird when that starts to happen because you work so hard to get here and then all of a sudden, poof,
Everybody's
it's done.
looking at their clock going, when can I
get out of
hook
here?
my battery up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and get back to my life again. Eric's got a very unique vehicle, and it drew my attention, obviously, because he's right across the booth from us here, and he's got a beautiful display of a 1964 and a half pre-production Ford Mustang convertible.
Yeah.
And he started telling me about it, and I was absolutely blown away. And I'll let you tell the story instead of me because you tell it much better than I do. But this is a very unique car.
Well, thanks. I'm happy to talk about it. This Mustang was born on December 9th, 1963, if you think about that. And in December 9th of 1963, Mustangs were born in a warehouse in Dearborn because it is a pre-production car. And so people employed by Ford are told to put these cars together and let's see how the parts fit. And this is one of about 200 examples that were built in the period. Of the 200 examples, this is the very first convertible that was built.
Oh, wow. I was about to ask you, how many convertibles were in that 200?
About 70 cars.
Oh, wow.
Now, by the way, if you think about the New York World's Fair, April 17th, 1964, Ford had cars on a rail there.
Was there?
Yeah, well,
in 64 World's Fair.
if you rode in the Mustangs that were towed around on the track there, those had no engines in them, and they were towed, and those were part of the pre-production cars that were built.
So it's part of this era of these
Exactly.
cars. Yep.
This car, if you look at the display outside the convention center in New York, April 17, 1964, this is the car that was on the display.
Oh, that was under the
Under
for lack of a
that
better
hoop deal.
arches kind of thing.
In fact, when I took the car to the Mustang Club of America, I have a setup that looks like that, but I didn't bring it in here because it's too cumbersome. But you know, these cars are really unique. You know, you look at what I love is you look at it and you say 64 and a half Mustang, but if you took the tape measure out, it's an inch shorter. And
Really?
it is.
Because the door opening looks larger than a normal Mustang.
Yeah, and of crazy part is you can't quite figure it out, but you can see a few visual cues when you look at it. Like if you look at the corners of the windshield pillars where they come down to the cowl, you'll see there's space between the dash pad and the windshield pillar, but you don't see that in the production car. That's the excess width that's in the car. The length difference is everywhere. The wheelbase is about a quarter of an inch shorter than the production car, and it's somewhat because it's hand assembled.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, pre-production stuff is all hand built. They do as best they can to make it visually look like the production car, but they're all hand built.
And you'll see on this car, if you look at all the seams in it, they're all leaded in because this was also Ford's photography car. So if you go look at the door jambs and you go look at the 64.5 Mustang brochure, that car doesn't have spot welds in the door jamb because it's this car. That's not how they were in fact produced.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's why the door jambs, the trunk lip looks a whole lot cleaner in this car. Probably the neatest thing about this car being pre-production is if you got under it and saw how different it is than the production car. Because
give me some examples.
Well, when they put the car together, they didn't realize how much clearance they needed for turning, so there's torch marks in the bottom of this car where they cut out some of the metal so the wheels wouldn't hit the I call it a subframe, it's a unibody, but where it would hit the unibody. But the single neatest thing on this car and why it's so historically significant is if you put your hands inside the inner wheelhouses of that car, they're all beat up. And this is documented, when they built the car, they welded in coupe wheelhouses into the car, and then they put the convertible top on it and it wouldn't go down. And so they said, we can fix that, and they just beat it up and flattened
Get in there with a hammer and make space.
So, in fact, there's an engineering drawing in Ford where they re-engineered to now say, we better make a convertible wheelhouse, and this car is the drawing that they used to show how to modify it.
The other thing that you were showing me with the top was up is the bows in the convertible top are flat.
Yeah, looks like a Jeep top.
Yeah,
sort of, and because they just hadn't engineered it. There's a lot of things that missed. If you look, there's no mirror on the driver's door.
Yeah, well, I noticed that. Don pointed that out this morning.
Yeah, they hadn't engineered it. The seats don't move in this car. They're bolted,
Not uncommon with show cars.
Right. They're bolted to the floor. The earliest of the Mustangs, this one included, the first digit on the AM radio is a 6 because the radio was built before the FCC released the 5s in the AM dial in '64. So if you get a super early Mustang, they'll have that, but they're a handful of cars that have that radio in them.
How did you get it?
So I've got some other Mustangs. My wife says I can't talk about those, but knew a guy in.
And have you ever listened to her before? Or?
The best thing was when we got married 35 years ago, she said, honey, you can keep collecting cars as long as I don't have to go to work. And I said, great marriage.
Fair trade. Yeah.
Absolutely, great marriage. But I knew the guy that owned the car, Ed Bailey, and this car really is, of the pre-production cars, only about 25 have survived because about 175, surprise, surprise, were crushed. Ford said, get rid of them because they're not production. This car was,
they still do that today.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this car went out on photography after the New York World's Fair and toured kind of the Midwest of the United States and ended up in Ames, Iowa, at a Ford dealer in Ames, Iowa. Ford wrote the dealer and said, we're recalling the car, but they didn't come get it. And the car sat, and this car was sold brand new in 1967. It sat on the dealer floor till 67. He sold it, and it stayed in Ames, Iowa.
Of all places.
How unusual that he sold it, that there was an MSO on it that gave him the opportunity to sell.
See, and I think it's a different time. The MSO is more of a
modern.
Yeah, modern deal.
Yeah.
Back then, you as the dealer just went and applied for a title from your state.
Particularly if you've already had it for 2 years, 3 years.
So the car gets sold, stays in the same family in Ames, Iowa, until Ed Bailey found the car. Ed bought it. It was then sent to a place called Buckeye Restorations, who specializes in early Mustang restoration, and that's why it's also billboarded as the most authentically restored one because it's done. The engine's in the original color of the Falcon engine, which was in the car. I mean, lots of little stuff.
Nuances, yeah.
Yeah.
It comes with it.
This car is Mustang geek you can get, right?
So did Bailey know what he was buying when he bought this car?
You know, Bailey knew he was buying a pre-production car because of the serial number on it.
But he didn't know the history of it.
Did the people who were selling it know what they were selling?
No, they did not. They bought a new 64 and a
Sounds
half.
like a deal to me.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
They just knew they'd had the car for a long time. It was just a Mustang to them.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, this is serial number 140. They weren't built in VIN number order either. They were just because Ford put out 200 VINs and said build the cars, and they're done in a warehouse. Serial number 1, the actual serial number 1 was built after this car, was bought by a Pan Am pilot. And the Henry Ford Museum in about 2010 decided they wanted that car. And he did well.
Is that the white one? Is that the white one that's in there?
It is. Yeah. It's the white one. And that is VIN number 1. And Ford chased down that Pan Am pilot, got it back, and he had a nice return.
So what is the value of something like this?
Ooh, you know, it could be, to the right guy, upper six-figure car. Could be. It's hard to tell, you know, because like anything in these real weird, low production things, it's the right buyer on the right day.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Correct.
You know.
Like Ford looking for that number one. They're willing to pay for
So
that.
Exactly.
have you had conversations with Ford about this car?
This car actually has been both at the Henry Ford Museum.
On display?
Yeah, I displayed it there. It was at the Peterson on
Oh,
display
wow.
there.
Wow.
How cool is that?
And so it's had some national prominence. It's been at Audrain. It's been at Amelia Island. I just took it to the Mustang Club of America. You know, and I like to show the cars. That's my hobby.
Yeah.
You know, as you've probably watched, I like to polish.
I was going to say, since you've been
show.
here, there's another layer of dust that kind of floated on there. You might want to take care of that.
Yeah. No, I try and keep it clean. You know, the irony is I've owned the car a long time. I've probably driven it 100 miles the whole ownership.
Just up and down the driveway to get it onto
Pretty
the trailer. And
You know, and so when I was bringing it in here, right as I'm getting my fire marshal inspection to come in the building, I smell fuel, and it's leaking.
Oh.
You saw it.
Yeah.
You know, and the accelerator pump had just decided to let go.
Wow.
So I came in here yesterday and took the carburetor off and changed the accelerator pump, put it back on.
fix that.
Yeah.
A fuel leak when the fire marshal's about to inspect the car.
Wasn't that
How
perfect?
ironic. The car's going, na-na-na, boo-boo.
Exactly.
Hold my beer. Watch this.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, only that would happen to me.
That's cool.
Yeah, you know, and I love Mustangs. I've always had an affinity for them. I started my very first job was a car mechanic here at Russell Smith Ford.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I started out, and I did that for a 76, 77, and I said, need to go to college. You know.
Pulling wrenches isn't as much fun when you got to do it for a living.
Yeah, and I'm a pretty good wrencher, but I think I was better out letting other people do it.
Yes.
You know.
I know about that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I just love. I have a bunch of Mustangs, and I like, and I just like Fords.
Are you local?
I am. I've.
You know Randy Weldon.
Yeah, I'm born and raised here. I'm a Westbury High School grad.
Oh, my goodness.
Where are you from here, Don?
I graduated from Westbury High School also.
See,
But probably 20 years before you.
What year were you? What year?
80.
Okay, his was 1880.
Pretty much, yeah.
What year did you graduate, Don?
1970, thank you for asking.
Well, you know, because I grew up right off Hillcroft and Braeswood.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I was down the way. I'm over off of Ludington and Hillcroft.
Yeah. where'd you go to elementary?
I went to Andy Anderson Elementary and Albert Sidney Johnston Junior High School.
Johnston for me. Here's the crazy thing about Houston in that day. My brother and I are 18 months apart. He went to Coulter.
Yep.
I went to Elrod. He went to Fondren. I went to Johnston. He went to Bel Air. I went to Westbury. We lived in the same house with the same parents.
No, they redrew the lines back then a lot.
They didn't love you.
No. Well, and they had this magnet school program by the time I went to high school where Bel Air became a foreign language school, and you could transfer. And I wanted to transfer on foreign language, and when they found out I was David Lipper's little brother, they said, pass.
We've had that. We don't want it again.
Do you mention that to him often? Or?
Yeah, and it's crazy. He's, my brother, you'd think I would be the bad guy and he'd be the good guy, but he's a rabbi, so who knows?
Well, they heard the language he was using.
Yeah, when he told my grandmother he's going to be a rabbi, my grandmother said, I'm so disappointed. Yeah, your younger brother's going to be a car mechanic. That's a great idea. Yeah.
Get Jim's attention. Hey, Jim.
Jim.
Tilly.
Jim Tilly.
Right there you go. Right there.
Those are you guys. These two characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we got off to Westbury High School and everything else, and I sat down here to talk about Mustangs. Is there anything else I can tell you guys about the car?
Well, what options are on that car that were over and above the standard car?
Well, interesting. So if you go look, it's got a Thunderbird power steering pump. So it has power steering. It has power brakes. But it does not have – usually you would get an electric top if you got a car loaded out like that. This car does not have an electric top because they hadn't figured it out yet. It does have radio was an option. And oddly enough, it's got a rally pack on it.
And what was included in the rally pack?
Well, in most Mustangs, you got the rally pack and the GT appearance package, which were the fog lights in the grille and the exhaust that came through the rear valence. But this car has
the wheel covers or the wheels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This one has just the rally pack. One other thing about this car that makes it pretty unique is the wheel covers. If you look, they've got spinners on them.
I saw that.
That did not last in production because they decided that was dangerous. Knockoff wheels.
Yeah, chariot races. You get into that against the Camaros or something.
Yeah, I always wondered when you hit somebody and that knockoff hit them, how much more injured were they?
Yeah, exactly. At least $1 million.
Who's running that study in 1964?
And now you look at the cars today, and they've got the wires that stick out
exactly
13, 14 inches from the hub.
Yeah, but that they took it off. They just made it flat Mustang, no spinner.
We're fixing to run out of time, but you mentioned you had a couple of other Mustangs.
Yes, sir. I have a Boss 9.
Oh, wow.
I have a 65, 6, 7, and 9 Shelbys. And the creme de la creme, and this will make you laugh, I have it was here a couple years ago. I have a 78 Mustang II King Cobra that is unrestored survivor. And, those cars all became melted down to drill pipe, right?
Yeah.
If unique is what you seek, that is one.
And what's funny is this one never got left out in the sun, so the plastic is all good, and I just love the car because you pull up and people call it a Pinto, and I'm like, it is not.
It's better than a Pinto.
Yeah.
It's not on fire.
It says Mustang.
Exactly.
Well, and the King Cobra had the V8.
It did. 157 horsepower,
Yeehaw.
302. Yeah.
Now they have 3 cylinders with more horsepower than that.
The funny thing is, if you get in it, you turn on the air conditioning, which oddly enough still works. I think it probably takes it down to about 120 horsepower. And then when you figure out the bad gearing they put in the car, it
sucks the life out of it.
Yeah.
It's a Weezer.
Yeah, I mean, my wife has your average Mercedes that would leave it in the dust. just leaves it in the dust. But it's fun.
Eric, thanks so much for stopping by.
Well,
thanks so much for the great story. And if you're listening and are coming down to the show, it's right in front of the In Wheel Time booth here at the George R. Brown Convention Center in Autorama.
Don't miss it.
Congratulations on an awesome car.
Thank you, guys.
It's the one that's got all the dust on it.
My fellow Westburian.
Hook 'em.
All right, Eric.
Thanks.
Again, thank you. Time now
right.
for this hour's car review. Had a chance to drive the 2024 Jeep Compass. It comes in these trim levels: Sport, Latitude, Latitude Luxe, Limited, and Trailhawk. That's a lot. My review is on the Altitude 4x4. You notice that you didn't see or hear that in there. This is a new trim level that may replace the Latitude, but this is the Altitude.
Some kind of tude.
Yeah, it's an attitude, what it is. Small SUV, seats 5. This is part of the second generation model that was all new for 2017. Sharp-looking Jeep face with the 7-slot grille. Painted wheel opening moldings, which is different. Of course, this is an upper trim level. Lower side moldings as well are included in the paint. Two-tone roof rails adds a new upscale look to it. It has a very off-roady kind of look without the Trailhawk package. Trailhawk is upper tier all the way.
Off-road.
Off-road looking, yeah. Off-road looking stance is what it's got as well. Sharp, all trim level, shop all the trim levels and the pricing on all of those, because as you'll see when I tell you the price,
The differences are significant.
They are significant. So shop it, make sure that it's got the stuff on there that you really want. Now, as far as interior is concerned, extra large infotainment screen, the center dash. We like the two-tone materials on this trim level. Overall clean design. Passive phone charger underneath the center dash, which is good. I like it there. Get the phone out of the way. It charges. You forget about it. Then it's all right there if you need to have your phone in your hand. Cargo room, adequate, even with the second row seat up, which is different because usually in a small SUV like this, that second row takes up that area in there, what they call the cargo area. What I liked about it, the roominess, because it is a small SUV. It has a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that puts out 200 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Tow rating is up to 1 ton. Not bad.
Wow.
24 miles per gallon city is what it's rated, 32 on the highway for a combined of 27. I got 28.2 miles per gallon over 259 miles.
It's because you don't drive like Mars.
What?
I got
Everybody drives like
28.2 miles, most of it on the highway. Well, the loop, the tollway. Yeah, so there's that. What I liked about it, the mileage. What could use improvement? The transmission does get confused at times if you expect quick downshifts, and the start-stop feature can be annoying. It depends on what you're doing with it, where you're driving, whether you turn the start-stop off,
Well,
leave it
start-stop
on.
can be annoying on anything.
Yeah, it can be.
Not
There
just
are
this,
some
yeah.
vehicles that you can't even tell that they're starting and stopping. So, ride and handling. We like the suspension compliance. What could use improvement? We don't think anything. Base trim price, $32,670. That's the base trim price. Price is tested, $41,905. Now remember, this is a more upscale trim level, so you're going to pay for that.
It's got
Clearly,
attitude.
Yeah, it's got $9,000 bump on that. Base model price, you can get in one of these for $28,400 if you can find one or order it. Competitors include the Mazda CX-50. It starts at $30,300. The Honda CR-V goes for $29,500. And the Subaru Forester, I guess you could throw that in the mix as well because it's also a small SUV, for $27,095. And that is my review of the Jeep Compass Altitude 4x4.
All right.
Questions? No?
Do you like it?
Mars is looking at me with those loving eyes, and I'm not exactly
Well,
sure
Puppy dog
what
eyes.
that's about.
No. I was just thinking about, I drove that vehicle also, and I thought it's very Jeep. It's Jeep when you.
It's Jeepy.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Jeepy's a good way to put it.
So
It
it's
is.
a firm ride?
It's not necessarily a firm ride. I would not put it. It's an off. Look, Jeep is known for its off-roadiness.
Mm-hmm.
The brand is, but not all of the vehicles are off-roady built.
Right.
They're not all built for off-road.
They might say they can do all-wheel drive or some.
And they can
something.
They can do that.
But people have the mindset. that
Right.
it's
They
like
can't
that.
do Jeep.
If you want an off-roader in the Jeep line, get the Wrangler. Body on frame. I mean, old school, but it's got all the modern stuff on it.
Right.
And so, I don't know.
Now, this was a front-wheel drive, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, there you have it. All right, that's my review of the Jeep. Now, let's do the cruise-in calendar. If you don't mind, sir, next weekend is Craig's Chrome and Coffee out at the Avalon Diner on the Southwest Freeway.
And as well as the car social at
Gulf Coast Auto Show.
That is a
worth
cruise-in
coming
as
to.
well, yes.
Black Friday at Ruby's Barbecue was last night.
Well, that's last night.
Yeah, but I heard they had a good, real big turnout.
Great, that's great.
The ribs were great.
The ribs are great.
Yeah, still feeling them this morning.
But it was last
Electrics
night.
and Exotics in Magnolia, Texas at Garages of America is tomorrow at 9 a.m. Also tomorrow at 10 a.m. is Rides and Coffee in Spring, Texas. The Grand Central Park Car Show is in Conroe at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Also at 4 p.m. tomorrow is the Umami Fest Eat Sleep Car Meet.
Edamame. Edamame?
Umami.
You can buy
Umami.
edamame, and you can buy that at the HEB.
And 2 weeks ago, there was this car review that
Yes, that's right.
And one for Jeffrey is Cadillacs and Coffee at 1519 Fulton
that
Street
should have led the story.
in Houston, and it's a,
On Fulton?
on Fulton. It's a Cadillac only cruising.
And it starts at midnight.
No, it starts at 8 a.m.
Anything else?
Rides and Coffee at the
Oh,
Detail
my.
I
Garage.
thought you were about
Your
to fall
minute's
asleep
up.
there for a minute. Okay, thank you. The In Wheel Time Car Talk Show is available 24/7 through the iHeartRadio app. Just look for In Wheel Time Car Talk. We also video stream on Facebook, YouTube, and InWheelTime.com. And podcasts are on over a dozen of your favorite
A dozen?
podcasts. Over a dozen.
Oh, there's
probably
more than that.
100.
Yeah, there are.
Now, what did you say, Mars?
I don't know. I lost my voice.
What you said
I'm
something?
looking. Yeah, it's also we also have you can get the audio and video podcast, 2 different podcasts now on YouTube.
Okay, very good. All right.
Theoretically.
Theoretically, I think it's time
We
for
get
us
on
to
a
take a break and
podcast.
fix our mouths. Hey,
Podcast.
right back here on the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show.
Houston's finest cars are invited to another Gulf Coast Auto Shield Car Social, Saturday, December 2nd, and you're invited too. Show off your personal pride and joy, or just stop in to see the likes of Lucid, Lamborghini, Porsche, Ferrari, and more. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your one-stop shop for paint detailing, coatings, window tint, clear bras, and wheel repair. The Car Social is your opportunity to get a tour of this state-of-the-art facility located at 11275 South Sam Houston Parkway, just south of the Southwest Freeway. It all takes place Saturday, December 2nd, 9 to noon. This is the perfect opportunity to connect with other car enthusiasts. From BMWs to Bentleys, Corvettes to McLarens, the Car Social is a different kind of show. Talk to the owners. See Gulf Coast Auto Shield's facility. You'll be amazed. Put it on your calendar now. The Gulf Coast Auto Shield Car Social, Saturday, December 2nd, 9 to noon at 11275 South Sam Houston Parkway, just south of the Southwest Freeway. The In Wheel Time Car Talk Show will be there too. We'll see you then.
Hey, Houston! America's greatest hot rod tradition is back! Thanksgiving weekend! The O'Reilly Auto Parts Autorama! At the George R. Brown Convention Center. 4 action-packed days of hot rods, customs, classics, trucks, and performance cars. The ultimate lowrider showcase. Sponsored by Shorty's Hydraulics. See Lone Star Throwdowns, Texas-sized truck spread. And don't miss the traditional rod and custom section. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, see wild, high-flying freestyle motocross stunt shows. Shop the swap meet and women's world all weekend on the celebrity stage presented by Nick's Auto Repair and Classic Car Restoration. Friday, meet AEW tag team superstars, the Lucha Bros. Saturday, it's Noel G. Hector from the Fast and Furious. Sunday, it's Lou Ferrigno, the original Incredible Hulk. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Autorama. This weekend at the George R. Brown Convention Center. Discount tickets at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Part of the Summer Racing Equipment Show Car Series. See Autorama.com for more info.
The original group of Lupi Tortilla restaurants will have you telling your family and friends just what the original recipes mean when it comes to the best fajitas in Southeast Texas. Founder Stan Holt invites you to visit the original Lupi Tortilla near I-10 and Highway 6. Here's the original house that inspired the design of all the rest and the original charm that helped make Lupi Tortilla the go-to destination for Houston Tex-Mex. Speaking of original, nothing can compete with the original lime pepper marinade that everyone will agree makes Lupi Tortilla award-winning beef fajitas the best anywhere. Lupi Tortilla Katy is another location that gives you the same quality and service Houstonians have come to expect at Lupi's. It's located just off I-10 and the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard in Katy. Find yourself in Aggie Land? Head to the Lupi Tortilla in College Station, located just around the corner from Kyle Field. It's a great place to enjoy those famous frozen margaritas before or after the game. Headed east to Louisiana, stop in at the Lupi Tortilla in Beaumont. It too's on I-10. You can't miss it. The original group of Lupi Tortilla restaurants invites you in for the best Tex-Mex anywhere. That's it for this podcast episode of the In Wheel Time Car Show. I'm Don Armstrong, inviting you to join us for our live show every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and our InWheelTime.com website. Podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts.